Some people, they call them, say, a truth. Some call them deeper truth. Some people call them merciful truth. But today, the truth you need to know. And the change you need to make. The direction you need to take. But remember, we don't leave too much in the hands of some few people. We don't over depend on some people for make it happen. And the people take us towards another direction. Towards self.
Welcome to another episode of Voices. My name is Augustine Ambe. I have a special show today, and I think that I call it special because the Ambazonian struggle is at a situation where if you ask, depending on who you ask, no one can really tell you whether we're doing well or we're not doing well. Some people think we're doing great. That way exactly where every revolution should be. Some people think we're not where we were in 2018 and 2019. Some people really do think that we are losing ground, and they are worried. I have a gentleman that I'm going to be interviewing for the first time on this is my first show that I'm doing through Zoom. I have a very exciting gentleman who I would like to bring so that he tells us what is going on. And I say that because he's a man who is involved. And when I say involved, I mean at every level. The first time I saw him was when he addressed an issue that was in Batibo. I think it was a conflict between if you see me struggling with words, know that it is a thing that I really don't care for. It was when some Amber boys went and caused a lot of trouble with others in Batibo, and he addressed it. He addressed it really forcefully. That was the first time I noticed him. The second time was really recently, and he really got my attention this second time. The first time I noticed him as a big orator. The second time I noticed him as a patriot and as someone who owns himself and can make decisions on a dime. And so I'm very excited to bring Mr. Sikod. That's what I'm talking about. I'm very excited to bring him and have a conversation with Mr. Sikod. Mr. Sikod, welcome, and thank you for staying late for me.
Thank you very much. It is an exciting moment. And anytime I have to address Ambazonians and the world at large, it is a very exciting thing for me. So thank you for inviting me. I'm glad that someone could notice what I'm doing and invite me to such a show. God bless you.
Absolutely. Like I already said, the first time I saw you was when ADF went and caused some trouble with in Batibo, and you spoke forcefully. The second time was, I think, in a month ago or so, when you
make some pronouncements.
You made some very serious you made some very serious pronouncements and some allegations. And let me just remind you of some of the pronouncements you made and some of the allegations you made, so that I see we can have some follow-ups on that.
I hold it for my conscience. For tell the Ambazonian people today. Say, we don't know when Secretary Chris Ano be resigned. This is the crook of the matter. When he be resigned, because of the problem with APNC, a situation happened. And if any man argue me, I go show you with proofs of videos. Audios. When Chris Ano resigned, I tried to find out what happened. That one passed. Suddenly, I received a call from my sister, Madam Ngwa Irene. He had Joshua Carr for line. And he tell me, say, we need to do something now because APNC go hold. Mr. Siseko, he don't talk. He want control IG. He want controlling them. We don't finish. We don't finish. We go lost power. We need to do something now. I say, so wait till we go do. Say, you need to do something. Wait, I need to bring up some story. I need to bring up some story for frame me up. I said, which kind of story? Joshua Carr was on the line. He said, we get to create them now to make the media know, say, he hold meeting from prison. And so if he hold Zoom meetings on prison and he control the people outside, La Republic government, they know the authorized phones or communication outside, they go send him for solitary confinement. When they send him for solitary confinement, that will be all, and they go walk without any rivalry. Joshua Carr was very excited for go do that. Make he go try to argue me. Make I prove him. I don't be quiet for a long time.
You had a phone call from your sister, I assume she was your sister, asking you to be part of a conspiracy to lie about Siseko Ayok Tabe. Can you tell us a little more about that? Because you said it in passing, but that was what made me pay attention to you. That this guy is a patriot. He is focused on the struggle, and he's not going to be playing sectarian games. Expand on that allegation or on that phone call that you received.
The first thing I want to say before coming to this is the fact that you made some assertion or you made an assessment and you actually try to see it in the way others see it, that some people think the revolution is failing, some people think it is really in good shape, and some have their various views. I want to first of all say that at the moment, what I can say is that we as humans, we struggle. We struggle, and only God delivers. Only God delivers. And no doubt, this revolution is referred to as the God-ordained revolution. There will be moments that we will think that everything is falling off. There will be moments of real lows. And there will be moments when nobody expects. And you will see a very high, an eclipse. You will see us rise. But let me comment here that this 2020 will be a very trying year for the Ambazonians. We have seen the fact that coronavirus have taken us or taken the whole world behind, and everybody is paying more attention to the coronavirus rather than the crisis in the world, especially the Ambazonian crisis. You will see it being neglected. And on their own side of La Republic, you will see them killing our people, killing everyone, and we will think that we are losing. And if you have your ears on the ground, you will discover that the southern zone is getting weaker, and so the attention is in the northern zone. But war is never fought everywhere, and so there is hope that where we are, we're doing just good, but we should have been better, but because of issues of leadership. And that is why we come to that point where I had to come and say some truths. I had to come and talk because people were paying more attention of keeping power rather than saving the people. People looked at others to be the threats to them holding leadership. And it is very aching to take private conversations and put them out there. That was the fix that I was in. I am a gentleman. I can be very fierce if I want to put up my activist cap, but I still look at it. How do you think? How do people look at me? If I have a private conversation and then I record it and I say I have a record. But I had to get to that point because there were critical things that were being discussed. There were things that are affecting lives of people, and I had to go beyond the ordinary, beyond what I like to do, and keep that record. And so that is why that conversation came up when my sister here called, and we were talking on the line with Joshua Carr. I understand that he had gone out there to try to debunk it and argue about it. But as I said, on the day of the discussion, I didn't record. But because I saw other things that happened, and I know that it will be argued. And so I brought up that topic for us to discuss one more time with my sister. And when we discussed, I recorded what we discussed. And I keep it for the records. When it is time and I'm asked, I will give it out. Their problem was because Siseko Ayoktabe was like a risk to them. If they allow him to begin to speak, if they allow him to begin to talk to the public and remain in control, then they are going to lose control. And that is why the woman, as a very good player, had to bring up that idea that we should implicate him in a way that he should be sent to the dungeons. And of course, I had to reason. I had discussed with some of the people in the Naira incident before, and I discovered that someone like Tassa and Siseko were treated differently. They were always in dark rooms, in water, and in very terrible situations. They did not know for about 3 months or 4 how the others are. They don't know what is happening or where they are. And to get the trauma of what they go through and see myself being part of those that should implicate such people, it is grievous. And even after that, when SCAF had tried to make some meetings between the two leaders, it got to a level where the supporters of Siseko had gathered some money, and he said, I'm going to give you this $60,000. Put it into defense. Change the situation on the ground. And our own people that are out here refuse to take this money and prefer to be by themselves and lie to the public. And then you should also understand that there is a bigger something to achieve if they are on themselves than if they work with this man, because maybe somebody will be asking you questions to answer for this or that. So I leave it at that.
Yes, and I'm really, as you explain, I'm thinking. Well, I started this conversation with the toughest question, and thank you for that explanation. And I know in your statement you covered a lot of things that I was going to come to. I just have another quick question, another follow-up question on this thing with your sister. When did she ask you to do what you said she did?
Yeah, if you ask me the specific dates, I would not at a blow let you know that.
No, I'm just give me around the time period. I just want to get a sense of the time period.
But you know that our leaders were in CERD for quite some time, and we didn't know where they were. And finally, they were transferred to the prison principal or so. So when they were there, it wasn't like something they weren't discussing with the public all the time. But it got to a time where they started talking and holding some few meetings with others outside. And if you discover the same moment when the impeachment or things begin to come against him, that was that same period where he tried to ascertain himself in position, because I think he saw a situation wherein his own followers were also not having a position to work and in that government, and maybe he also saw it that or heard complaints about the struggling, and as a leader will want to do something that will bring back the spirit. But that was automatically seen as a threat. Yes. So if you can think about where the arguments came up, then I think you can say certain that period. But saying that it is June or November now on this show is something I wasn't prepared.
Yes, let me say why I want people to be educated on this. Because, you have said it yourself that our struggle is been suffering from lack of leadership. And so, and this particular period is when I think the leadership problem was going to be exacerbated. And I see that you struggled with it, because when I listened to you at the time, and I was like, why didn't he expose it at that time so that all of what later developed should not have developed? But I can see that you were dealing with a relative and struggling. I don't know where you were, but just listening to you at that time, I assume you were in their camp, you were working with them, and which is what I really admire. If you have been in that camp and then you are out and you are where you are in this struggle now, I think it shows a lot of courage and a lot of love for Ambazonia, or to see that situation resolved, irrespective of who resolves it or who loses from their own attempt. Am I right in my assessment there?
What I just wanted to correct is that it is not a matter of being in their camp and at one time out of their camp. Okay. It is, look, I think that we are all struggling for the liberation of Ambazonia. Mm-hmm. I do not look at myself like that person who was now working with the IG of Sako and now has left to the IG of Siseko or this. What I see is that whatever transpired, whatever happened, mm-hmm. people should not be treated unjustly. People should not be treated the way some were treated. But now, whatever I say, do not stop others from following their own leader that they prefer. And so, what I also say, or when I pinpoint something, does not automatically mean that I cannot or I do not work with the IG of Sako. I still recognize him as a leader, but I still recognize Siseko as my leader. And I still recognize people like Kwanga and the Dr. Ayabas as leaders of their own rights and of their own levels. And so that distinction should be made, that I still recognize them like leaders. And in any step of the way, if I need to support any of them to achieve their own vision for Ambazonia, so long as it is Ambazonia, I will collaborate with them. For example, I work with the counties, I work with the LGs. Those are institutions that are mostly run by Sako. So they can't tell me I'm anti-IG. And any initiative of His Excellency Siseko, I appreciate and I support. Any other leader, Dr. Akwanga and so on, I support their views. There are times I also support even things like the BCDF and other movements if I am contacted for one support or the other. And if there is any policy they make that is for Ambazonia, I go for it. It's not being in one camp or the other. I am for Ambazonia. But the people had made it in such a way that we must belong either to A or B. Some come out to say, choose your side. You cannot be on the fence. No. On whose side should I be? And the only side I am is on the Ambazonian side. So if you are for Ambazonia, I will be for you. But if you do wrong, I will also point it out. That is me. If my father, when he was still alive, there are times we argue, but there is nobody that had ever lived that I love more than my father. But we argue.
So let me ask you this, though. The reason I'm trying to put some time, why did it take you so long? Like I said, if you had come out sooner rather than later, maybe it would have educated our people a little more. It's just a question that other people watching would like to know. Because that's a question that I was asking myself. I said, that is so courageous. But why didn't he do it earlier?
Yeah, At times, you don't follow your sentiments.
Okay.
We don't follow the people because others are talking and because others are fighting injustice, and they begin to talk and they begin to fight and they begin to point out things. Every day you see some activists talking online live and fighting others and so on. I always ask myself, of what use? Of what use does this really add anything? So I am more interested into action than politicking. But there are times you set your mind, and until your mind comes to that point that it says it is right for you to say that. I am also a spirit man. I like to believe in things of the invincible. And so that is why I set my mind until it told me in my spirit that this thing you are about to say will make impact. As from now, whatever you say is what will make impact. Now, there are many things, there are thousands of secrets that I know that I wouldn't say. Even selecting which one was relevant was a problem. But I thought that that particular one was most relevant at that time. And because it caught up with my spirit, I knew that it was going to make the appropriate impact. Now, if you do not see it physically, but I'm telling you that it has touched minds. People have spoken from maybe about 1 year about this same issue, but my one outing has a better impact, according to my honest assessment, for people who look at the truth and people who look at the mind, the heart. So I think it was the right time. And if something is God ordained in this struggle, then I think it was the ordained time for me to have spoken out.
I want to dwell on this leadership thing because I agree with you that leadership is definitely a problem. The fighters on the ground, they are like the most courageous Ambazonians that ever lived. So I have a lot of respect for them. And I've heard you say you respect all the people, Akwanka, Sako, Choayaba. All these people are out in the diaspora, and some have been there for a long time. I call them middlemen, and I have always thought that they were more a problem than a solution, because these are people who did not initiate the fight. Instead of supporting the leadership on the ground, they decided to be commanders in chief 10,000 miles away, living in their comfort outside of the territory, and each of them either claiming to be a commander-in-chief, but each of them definitely running their own agendas that are not quite in tune with the agenda at home, because these people are putting governments to go down to be governments in a free Ambazonia, and I think that interferes with the struggle that the people on the ground started.
The first fundraising of $35,000 wey Sako go make for Maryland. When I not send for that boy them, they beg to take. When I say no, you must denounce Sikod. Commando must agree, say this will go burn Sikod the house before we go give you that money. This boy say no. Commando they alive when I feel ask. When I go burn the house, then we'll give you that money. Commando say no fit do am. When I live on that money. Baby will be the day when I know they give money. You know they get nothing. Suddenly baby just get money. He take the other arms away. When I finally send the money, buy it in them, go for ground zero. Rich with them when I fully send 5 million. J. Evaristus. Say make it go for basic, move with those arms. That the boy carry other arms them. You know, load them, you know the granite. It go basic. When I put a time make against commando, so that when it come now, naive the general. He go now try to take that machine gun, so the boy will don't take over commando. He buried somewhere. That boy say over a dead body no yeah. The fight no be easy. Like they forgo even them. He carry that material them. Unfortunately, he get that problem. We get them for Guzan with ADF. We they kill them like that. It's caused by the Evaristus. He did for day. So these people need to leave the defense for Mugamo. And so if the AJ Waka talk here and there, those are the people causing problems. We are judge. You day for day, and you know the other way around, order them for people for be killed. And you talk them clearly, and he there for audio, and he get people for testify. We get Kone for Germany, a key younger brother.
So clarify to me if this aloof leadership is a solution or is part of the problem that we actually paying the price now, depending on where you assess the struggle to be?
Let me say that a state only rises on the shoulders of brave men whose hearts are like seeds of wisdom. Now, if a leader do not have the adequate wisdom to lead his people, then the people suffer. The people or the struggle delays because of leadership. But if you look at great statesmen that we will describe in this Ambazonian struggle, are people who even went alone. If you look at the Pa Mola
Litumbe.
Litumbe, that was somebody who went almost alone. That is a man you can describe with like a great statesman. With a lot of, you can find a garden of wisdom in him. That as he moves on to glory, you see his works going with him. You can have 50 quotes from Pa Litumbe. If you go memory lane and listen his audios, listen his videos, his interviews, you will find out a man that sacrificed it all.
Yeah, but Pa Litumbe was a man. Pa Litumbe was a man of the ground. He was a man of the people. He was living and sweating in the problem. I'm talking about people who did not initiate the struggle. Nobody in the diaspora.
He lived that selfless life, went to prisons, came out, and got to a level wherein he could not even be arrested anymore, and even died in the enemy's camp untouched. Now, but there are those other leaders that are out here in the diaspora, and they are commander-in-chiefs. They are his excellencies and so on, whatever titles they have. Whatever they are called, they are still doing something great. They are trying at their own level. But what I know is that they are making their impact on the ground, but could make it better. We cannot automatically say that they are in the diaspora and so they make no impact. No, you and I are in the diaspora. But I tell you the truth, I personally make a lot of impact on the ground. The only problem I have with our leaders out here is that they are experts in fundraising. They are geniuses. They are genius. For example, I will appreciate one person in Ambazonia, who is my sister, Madame Irene Gua. There's nobody that has the wisdom that she has as when it comes to having the means to raise money. But now, what happens? Get to the Defense Department and get to know where they are going. That is where you absolutely see no roadmap. That is where you see something that is lacking. Come to the structures of the counties and you will discover a lot of presidents that were meeting group presidents. For example, Manu president in the US, maybe Guzan.
Before just hold us.
Group themselves together
just
to
hold a
be
second,
politicians. And they and when activists like us talk, they tell you leave politics for politicians and do your activity. And so, which politics are we talking about? What are they talking? And these are the things I think that are destroying the revolution. Because when we should be fighting for the revolution and putting priorities right, we are politicking.
You're bringing a lot of issues which I had scheduled to discuss them in a different sequence. But let me say this, okay? No, that's fine. Let's just speak when I'll be happy to redirect it. You said something which is very true, that these people in the diaspora are very good at raising money. They come up with all kinds of schemes to raise money, but that money never makes it to the ground. And I really think that is where the problem is, and that's why I call them middlemen. And I've given examples about organizations that formed in the territory, and they came to the United States, for example, And all they needed from us was the finances. We gave them the finances. They became very successful organizations on the ground. It is the reverse here. We have people who remain in the United States and turn around and collect money from the people in the United States, and that money never makes it to the ground. And I was going to come so that we talk a little more about that in terms of this county by county thing that you're talking about. But that is where I find them not becoming. I knew right from the start that they were a problem, and I think Barrister Bobga also knew that diaspora money coming down to the territory is toxic, and that's why when they started their lawyers association and started fighting the fights that the lawyers fought, he made it very clear that they did not need money from the diaspora, because what will happen is that the money would come and divide them. But it would divide them because they were not as formed and together as either the SDF was or the SCNC, solid organizations which can come and get money from the United States and go down and use it as a solid block. You know what I'm saying? So what I see happening is that people who have no organizations on the ground but remain in the United States and call themselves a government and then go around collecting money from people, and people give them that money because obviously they've usurped the position or the place of the fighters in the territory, and therefore they have never formed their own organization to be represented as a group abroad like the SDF did. And so you have all these middlemen collect the money. I used to hear some of them say they live hotel to hotel, women by women. I think you've heard that sentence, or you've heard that comment made. So I want you and trust me, this is the last time I'm going to ask you, and then we'll move to another. We'll move the conversation forward. So I see them as a problem. You are correct that they are a money collecting machine, which seems to me like they are siphoning the money that should be going down to the fighters, and the money is not reaching the fighters. The question is, where has the money gone? I remember Mr. Eric Tato, just a week after you spoke, came out showing where the money actually goes, and it was not to the people on the ground. So help me, sir.
It is not a matter of one movement. If you take it for a particular movement, then we get it wrong. It is happening across the board, many other movements. But let me tell you, a lot of the people in the diaspora are still out of touch with reality on the ground. Number two, some people take advantage of the fact that there are many people that do things on the ground, independent of the IG or the ADF or this. They are private individuals that do a lot of things. Yeah. And let me explain that. Sonara was not brought down by any of those leaders or their movements. The plane that was almost brought down was not brought by any of the leaders or movements. The situation in Oku, that where some trucks or some ammo cars were scattered, and we saw it on video, was not done by any of them. They only heard. But let me take, for example, if you were a good leader, if any one of them was a good leader, wouldn't someone like Bush Rambo, you heard what Bush Rambo did? After turning those ammo cars, collecting over 15 rifles, about a week or 2 weeks later, he had not even 10,000 on him to feed all his boys, and had to go begging. And we had to make some emergency disbursements from SCAF to help him. But tell me, if you were the leader, wouldn't you have at least looked for a number for Bush Rambo to say, "Thank you, my boy, you did something good"? What about Thunder, who brought the wing of the plane? He was working under some other private contractors that are operating in Mancon. Which of these leaders ever called him to say, "Thank you, you did something great, but we took glory because it happened in our county"? So that is why some of these leaders have known that even if they don't send money on the ground, there are people who send money on the ground. There are people on the ground that are doing things. But let me tell you the shocking thing. I think it would be the last time I would talk about this, but let me give you, it is my own private assessment, but I think it will not change in the nearest future. Let's take, for example, from Dr. Sako, Chris Ano, Dr. Ayaba, Dr. Akwanga, and a host of others. What will you expect? There are two things. Either we will succeed in this struggle or we will not succeed in the struggle. But God forbid, we are going to succeed. Now, they assume we are going to succeed based on what you and I are doing and private individuals are doing on the ground. But they have, I'm trying to read their minds because of what they have been doing. If they have to raise money, if they go to Germany today or they go to Finland or go to any place and raise money, what will happen? They have their teams in place. Whether it is from the AGOV or it is from the IG of Dr. Sako or whoever, they struggle in their teams to save money because you, Dr. Ambe, you work, but
no, I'm not a doctor. I hate to be a doctor. Not the kinds of doctors that you've been calling. I hate to be one of them. But
okay,
but it's Mr. Ambe. Yes,
you are working, and a lot of Ambazonians are working. People like Dr. Makongo and others, they are working.
Yes.
Before the struggle, most of these people I named were not working. Before the struggle, they were not working. If this struggle fails today, it will be difficult for someone like Chris Ano to go back and train in order to become a worker. It is difficult for Dr. Ayaba to go back or to go and work, and he's in Europe in the type of jobs that we do to meet up in the same magazines or in the same warehouse or the same places with me after he was sick. He was a commander-in-chief. Dr. Sako is His Excellency. And how can he work the normal jobs we're doing anymore? How can Chris Ano go back to church and raise money from there? So what happens? According to me, I think that if it fails or it doesn't fail, they should be able to have something to lean on after this for their rents, for their money, for their feeding and things like that. And that is why we suffer in this struggle, because some people must make their living. And if you look at the struggle now, they work 100% on the struggle. But you do your own job in order to at least contribute your own portion to a defense group or to somebody on the ground. And so that is why I am saying that Ambazonians must get involved. Whether you are in the IG of Sako or Siseko or get involved and know where your money is going. Get involved and get them things done. Get to a point where if you know you're going to give 1,000 euros in a year, try a way to add it even to 1/8 and buy your own AK and give. If it comes to the worst, buy a damn gun. Impact that ground zero and do not expect leaders to do something, because leaders try to bring a following in order to get something to reap. Revolutionaries like Mullah Njo gave all. They give all. Meanwhile, politicians, they take everything. And that is why they always tell us, leave politics for politicians. And where is the politics we are talking about? Are we already in the political arena now or in the revolutionary stage?
Well, Mr. Sikod, I think you made my case. I think you described it really well, that these are people who are living in the West. Instead of getting a job, they are living off our struggle, and they are more a part of the problem than a part of the solution. Now, I want to.
Sir, can I say something before you go to that point?
Yes.
It is not a matter of them living on the struggle. I, for one, I have told Dr. Sako before, this thing should be made legal, that we know that Ambazonians are paying Dr. Sako or paying Dr. Yaba or Dr. Kwanga for what they do. We should know that we are paying their house and they are working full time for us. And they should appoint maybe, like, let me call it in a very verbose way, like a minister of defense, and give him a target You are giving this tax for 1 year. Bring us at least a territory. Within that 1 year, if you don't achieve, another person is appointed and you should be paid, which it should be made legal. People should know that this person is paid and should be answerable to the people, instead of being in the disguise as if you are sacrificing from out of nothing, but meanwhile you are reaping from there. And I told him that, Dr. Sako, I don't have any problem with you because it is the IG that decided to pay your house. It is good, but what I think that Ambazonia should have known that we are doing this to the person we call our leader, so that we all also hold you accountable. And then term limits should be given so that people become productive. If you don't produce, you should be shifted. So if you don't work full time, my brother, if we don't have people that work full time on this thing, it would be very difficult for us, because we are like everybody working part-time. It is like you are a part-time prayer warrior and you want to defeat a full-time demon. As a full-time demon, if you are a prayer warrior, you need to fast at least, and you get to your knees, pray much before you can deliver someone. If not, that demon will deliver you. So if you have to fight La Republic, they are on the internet 24/24, working and sowing seeds of discord amongst us and bringing problems against us. And so some people should work full time and earn out of our money, but it should be made legal to the Ambazonian people. How much do we pay so that you deliver us this? Who is in which position? So that we look at that person, and if you are not productive, you should be shifted. So,
Mr. Sikod, let me say this, okay? I think you have a much more favorable idea or opinion about these people than I do, and I'm not going to characterize that opinion. I also think that you actually think that they have a relevance. I don't. I think that these were people who should have joined the rest of us and continued and go get a job. Go get a job and support the struggle on the ground. These are all people who instead chose to jump on the struggle, and you know what they're doing on the ground. Even when they send money to the ground, what they're doing is they send money to a group of Amber boys to go kill others because they feel threatened by. Those people are just a disaster. And until Ambazonians find a way to deal with them, this struggle is in trouble. But let me move it forward and ask you another question. You did reference it, which is this LGAs by LGAs, and I'm going to ask you first. Do you think that is that any kind of a war strategy? Is that any kind of a strategy to fight a war, to separate your people in tribes and then keep them independent tribes that get funded through some schemes that are engineered in the West, and by your own admission, the people in the West call them politicians instead of looking at themselves as it's so convoluted. I hate to even be putting them in terms of legitimate organizations. You know what I'm saying? Because and this is not me. This is not me being negative about them. We know about my trip to Boya Money, and now we have another scheme going on called Amber War. What do they call them?
Draft.
So explain to me how those LGAs work, and I think and I want you to explain this in being conscious that you are educating Ambazonians in the diaspora, so that they have a good sense of who they are giving their money to and what happens to that money.
Now, let me begin by saying that, sir, you have a negative rating for these leaders. But my only thing that I differ with you is that you have a favorable rating of the Siseko Ayoktabe. He also is a leader, and he was in Nigeria as a leader. And so, if you think that these other ones should not exist, then he shouldn't have existed.
No. Let me answer the thing about Siseko. Let me just say.
Whatever had transpired,
okay,
had taken place. these other people are people with their own following. We cannot cancel it. There are people who believe in them. And I cannot stand here to say that those Ambazonians that are following them are stupid or they are dumb. In every organization, in every struggle, there should be leadership. There should be people to coordinate. Our only issue is that we have a problem of leadership. We have people who do not even tolerate. Because if we laugh at Eric Tato, who shouts at everybody, I still appreciate one thing with him, that he is very forgiving. If you think the number of times he has reconciled with Ivor Tapa, and then it gives me that good feeling about him, that he can even leave his past behind. And so if these our leaders could also leave their interests and their past behind and unite to fight for this struggle, I would appreciate. But whatever they're doing great, or they're making their mistakes, and they're making very big mistakes. Unfortunately, the mistakes the boys on the ground, they do, any of their own mistakes lead them to their death. But our own mistakes are being swallowed because we are learning in the process. Just imagine that. And then coming back to the LGAs.
Yeah, before you go to the LGAs, let me say this, okay? See, if it doesn't work on paper, it will not work in practice. Okay? So if you look at the design that I just told you, that people start their struggle on the ground, they pick up arms to defend themselves. So no, those are people who already have leadership. So I do not agree that those people on the ground don't have leadership. That is really where the real leadership is. And you qualify that by saying how with very little they're able to bring down armored cars, they're able to do some of the. In fact, they are the people holding this struggle right now. The money that is contributed in the United States is really, the people contribute that money did not think they were contributing money to buy a house for Sako or do anything for any other person. But before I really let me come back and address something you said about my opinion about Siseko. I don't think the whole thing about government that Siseko and his team brought was great. I've knocked that off a long time ago, because you don't fight a revolution with the government. You're interjecting politics, and I think that was the first sin that then multiplied to bring us where we are now. So no, I don't. But the only forgiving thing I see about them is that most of the people in Nigeria were actually part of the leadership that escaped to Nigeria from the ground. So I give them some more credence as people who were actually part of the struggle. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think I'm the hardest on people who have lived in the United States for 30, some of them for 40 years. They never went back home. And you're right, they were not working. They need to be improving their lives in the West rather than you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
But I want you to do me a favor.
Some varying opinions. But before that, I also agree with you, and I do respect those people who left ground zero and left their livelihood, particularly because of this struggle. I think of people like John Baakurus. I respect them so much, leaving their salaries and their good life to struggle for Ambazonia. I appreciate people like Honorable Wiba.
I smile about John Baakurus because John Baakurus did not live as an activist. I think John Baakurus, and I've been informed by people on the ground that he did not live because he did not live the way Tasang left or Joseph Weber left. But he left on his own, and I think he wanted to go back. So yes, and so yes, before the struggle. Yes, so he did not live because of the struggle,
and he struggled his way out. And if you ask, even the way Tasang left the country, it was out of his. He was right there with Ashu, and that struggled a way to smuggle Tasang across. He was instrumental in the early stages.
No, those are the people that I call leaders that left that escaped to Nigeria to continue the struggle. But what I really want you to do, and I think you have some expertise here because you've also been part of that leadership. I want you to explain how the LGAs function. so that our people understand how the LGAs function. When they contribute money, tell me the setup of the LGAs. How are the LGAs set up? And you said it was Sako who set up the LGAs, right? You said they were his setups.
There were already some initiatives about people coordinating themselves according to their territories. I was one of those who had started coordinating in Momo. If you remember, there was a time I was the spokesman for Momo. At that time, there wasn't anything like county by county. We started that with Ofa Eugene's. There is this one. Is it Oswald in the UK, and Braddock and many others that we started with the county. And at that time, Dr. Fidelis used to tell us that they are trying to work out on something about this. The IG is working out something. And we said, if they're working out something, that is great. If they come up, we are just going to adapt and we begin to work, because it's good for coordination at the grassroots and things like that. Then Eric Tato was already there talking about county by county. And now Dr. Sako took that and went to LGAs, how to get to what La Republic calls subdivisions, which is now our LGAs. Yeah, but I want to say that part of those reasons were also to come out of the county heads that were already put in place by Siseko and put other structures that he could trust and build his own structures. Those were very good things. I think that for resource mobilization, it is very excellent. And we know ourselves. We know the people that come from one. For example, I come from Batibo, which is called Mogamo. If these people contribute money and it doesn't come to the ground, we fight you. Whether we are inside the IG of Sako or not, we have a right to belong. For example, I belong to that LG. Even if I don't hold any meetings with the cabinet of Sako, I am there and I impact my own place in my constituency where I come from. And so we gather that money and we send to the boys on the ground. The only problem that got bad in this issue was the fact that they got to a time when someone like my sister Mara Irengwa was put in charge of they put her like the liaison. They had a name. They put facilitator, which means the people of the whole of that LGA should gather and put who they call the chairman, the treasurer, the finance secretary, the defense commander, and everything based on knowing yourselves. If you know the best people in that place, you put them in that team, and everybody in that clan looks up to that team. Now, as a facilitator, she went around to make the people whom they know that are more answerable to them to be in positions. And that is why you see in Bengui, they came and did the same thing and put someone that they understood. And when they came to Momo, when I was already there like the spokesman, and in the meeting that he should come, Batibo should come with the Kum and Bengui and all of that, us sit together like representatives of all the LGAs at the county. Then we already know the chairman, like the chairman was Ambe Tangwan of Bengui. But they brought another person to be the chairman. And then they introduced to us and said, this is the IG recognized chairman of Bengui. You see? And then even in Batibo, we have already had elections and Hali Mba was already elected. But they said, no, we don't know that group. They refused and they had to make another organization. But someone like me was very quick to understand where the problems will come. And I said, if we had to fight for power, then when we begin to speak in different voices, it will bring real problems. And I told the people of Bengui that there will be real problems. And they left it, and that's why problems had been there for a very long time. Coming to Batibo, and I called Hale and the rest of the people and say, if you want to remain in place, for example, I have influence in my place. If I want to control all those boys, I will remain, I will control all of them.
All right,
and they can even put me as the supreme commander. But they too will continue to do their own job. It means they will be given instructions and I will be given instructions. What happens? The boys will pay with their life. And that is why.
Let me say this. What I'm trying to do in this interview is help Ambazonians get some clarity on what is going on with the struggle and how, whether they are having an impact or they are not having an impact, so that they can re-examine. Okay, so let's take this this war draft that's going on, right? When somebody goes online and say, I'm contributing XYZ to my county, what happens to that money? Can you explain it to me? Does it go to these representatives that you're talking about? Does it go to, or how does it work? Explain it to us, please.
Something about, if you want to analyze what happens with the war draft, you can see the concept of LGA wrongly. LGAs or counties are very good. I can't lie to you. It is a good thing, because even after this struggle, the people who take money and consume and do not send to those boys will be accountable. There are people who have the records. We have the records of what happens in LGAs. LGAs is a means of fundraising. I will come back to the draft, please, just within a second. Now, LGAs are organized in such a way that the people who come from one environment gather themselves together, get their leadership, gather resources, and then they are sent to all the defense groups in their own area. It is very good. And everybody wants to do something. And even there are times that people get arrested at home and they contact the LGAs, and the LGAs will find out from all the camps if their person is there. And I've seen situations that LGAs have called them that, please release this person, please do this, don't do it this way. And I've seen a lot of materials they have bought.
Yes,
The difference now is that in this draft, if the draft was actually raising monies that will go back to these counties and LGAs, it would be a very wonderful something. It would be so wonderful. But let me tell you the difference. That is why I told you that our people are experts in raising money. They knew that my trip to Boya did not go well. So they cannot launch a second My Trip to Boya or whatever name you call it. But they also understood that the people from the counties like their county by county and LGA by LGA. So anything you say that we want to raise money for those LGAs, the people will come in their numbers to raise that money. But what happens is that if it is said that today is war draft for Momo, everybody wants to support Momo, will come there to give money to Momo. But do you know the account that is given?
Yes.
It's not that account of the LGA or the county that we had been making contributions. The IG now gives the account on that date of the war draft to put that money inside. Which means all the monies from all the 13 counties that we are talking, that Mezam drafted this, Manu drafted this or this, it goes to the IG. And at the end, you will still see that they will realize about 2 million and more in the IG, and they will decide what to do and not the LGAs. Now, there is a risk that if I have 200 euros to have given to my LGA now, and I come and give it during the war draft, I would not be able to remove another 200 and give now to the account of that LGA, because I think I am already thinking that I have given money. But that money will not be used there now. The IG of Sikod knows what they want to do, but the public has not been told. Whatever has to be done is best known by them. So I am, by this video, saying that if you are giving your money to the LGA or to the county, thinking that you are giving it to go directly there, please don't expect that direct fruits now. Go back to your LGA again and give some other money so that those boys will begin to have money. If not, we will wait for the next 3-4 months and the boys will not have materials to fight. I'm not discouraging anybody from drafting, because I will draft, but I will ask for the account of the LGA to draft inside, so that that money goes on the ground, because I know everybody that is working under an LGA sends that money on the ground. the finance team, and I know what my money does.
There's a long history within this past 2 years of all these middlemen collecting money, right? And if you look just by empirical evidence, the fighting on the ground is not intense. It is actually dying out because of lack of financing. So I'm glad you kind of explain what is happening. So when somebody thinks they're contributing money for their LGA, what I got from you is that there are two kinds of LGAs, but that both of those two LGAs are under SACO. One, they collect money on their own. Let me just finish, please. One, they collect money on their own and they send to ground zero, and then SACO runs SACO and his team. I won't call him IG. SACO was fired by Siseko a long time ago. We need to be very clear what we are doing. We cannot say Siseko, we worshipped him. He's the one who built the diaspora, if you want to think about it. He's the one who installed some of these people. And then suddenly they rise up and they cook some of the schemes that you revealed in the call from your sister. And then they try to impeach the man, come up with all kinds of lies. And then somehow we recognize that SACO and then the one that SACO actually fired, that Siseko actually fired. So it looks like, we all messed up, and I don't know. And we somehow, we always behave like we're the best of our people. And I remember we were saying that we always behave like when we left home, we left the stupid ones home and we are supposed to be the smartest. Yet we are totally destroying our revolution because people who have proven that the money that we contribute, they buy their houses, like you say, they pay themselves because they're not going to work, and we continue to do that. And we don't look and say, okay, where is this money going and what is happening with the struggle on the ground? That's what I wanted you, as somebody who has actually worked in those LGAs, to say. But let me say the last thing about these LGAs. The whole idea of LGA by LGA, no, not LGA by, the whole idea of county by county was started by the Department of Defense under Siseko, and the idea was to raise money for the Department of Defense that was covering the whole territory. And you realize that once those LGA, and those were really the people actually supplying a lot of the weapons on the ground. And I think with time we will know more, because that information will be coming from other people, not from those people. So my brother, I'm glad that you took some time to explain, so people have a better idea and maybe make wise decisions. If they want to support the struggle, they should be supporting the struggle. And I don't see that happening, which is why La Republic right now goes into the territory and targets youth. We see them every day on our videos. I think today there were like 5 that were killed on their motorcycles, because right now we haven't given them chance to develop themselves the way they want on the ground, because we came and told them that, oh, please go fight LGA by LGA. One commander on the ground was telling me that part of the reason why the struggle has died in the Southwest was because some of the most brilliant and hardworking commanders that organized those teams there were from the Northwest. And when they brought this idea of county by county, of course the indigents, who were probably not the best soldiers, took over, and look at what happened to the struggle in the Southwest. Do you agree with that?
What I want to say is that we should come to a point where we must acknowledge the fact that whatever we say would not do away with what is prevailing now. We are in a revolution. They often say that politics is a dirty game. If politics is a dirty game, what more of war? Then war is deadly. We can't continue crying over spilled milk. We can't continue to fight and say this one, Siseko already fired SACO, or SACO is not legitimate, or this and that. He has his following, and now he is a stakeholder. I now call all of them stakeholders. You are a stakeholder in this Ambazonian revolution. Siseko is a stakeholder, very important one. Sako is a very important stakeholder now, and he's following. Kwanga, Ayaba, all of them are stakeholders. Scarf, a stakeholder. I am a stakeholder. And so, if we do not start acknowledging these people and work in whatever form, my brother, go even on ground zero. I like to use my local environment because I bring a lot of examples from there, and you go nationally, it's the same thing. Can you imagine there is Batibo as an LGA? Batibo has 22 villages. There is one they call Guzang, there is one they call Besi. And now there is a camp in Guzang, and you appoint a boy from Besi to head that camp in Guzang. All of them are from Batibo. And the people of Guzang, all of them together and say, no, you cannot put a boy from Besi to come and control Guzang. They want their person that they know.
You know, let me say this, okay? I think as educated people, what you do is you have a strategy going, or you have what you think is a strategy, and when it fails you, you have to come back and reflect on it and correct it. And you correct it, first of all, by talking about it. You don't correct it by acknowledging it and then say, well, you know why it's there, so we're doomed. We're going to, well, is that what you're saying?
The difference is that you are talking about it, but you don't belong to it. So there is nothing you can make as an impact. I believe that to make an impact, you have to be inside in order to make the impact and make the change from inside and be able to vote and take them out. I believe that I even tell some people that if you think that you want to do away with Sako, then get involved. Go to the county or the LGA, become a chairman or become a defense chief so that you go to their meetings and you can move your motion. If 2 or 3 people that are the good ones, they go there, they can effect a change inside that institution and make others understand. But what happens? Anybody who is disgruntled with Sako leaves. And there are people like Colonel Braddock and many others that are resigning and leaving. And you see a lot of wonderful brains, a lot of wonderful people with high IQ of knowledge of defense. When they're leaving, what happens? They leave those who have their financial backing to be there and raise the monies, but there is no good person.
Sikod, let me say this. Let me say this, okay?
You are where you are and where you support, doing your own contributions. But I want to see impact through your organization that I recognize as a stakeholder. For example, I recognize Board of Ambazonia, I recognize Dr. His Excellency Siseko and all his organs, but I want to see what they do to impact ground zero than what they do in criticizing any other movement.
No, then that's the point.
Time of doing, that time of talking.
That's the point. Let me say this, okay? What I want you to understand that the important player, and which is why I do some of these shows, the important player in this whole scheme that you're talking is not Sako. It is the people who contribute their money and enable him. And so part of our conversation is to educate them. And you don't enable, you don't cure the evil by feeding it what it needs or by being part of it and thinking that you will cure it from inside. I mean, I can tell you that Sako knows, Sako and the other people, I'm calling him because he is the one that really oversizes the whole thing, because he took over a system that we built through Siseko and then destroyed it. And I think that's the reason why his name comes up more. The rest, including even Ayaba, they're all playing in the periphery. Okay? So, but the way you disable them is to educate the population, because our people are giving them these millions, not because they want to give it to Sako. Like you rightly said, they're giving it to their counties, but he's created systems that rouse the money back to him. I wanted you to explain that, and I think you have. People now who continue to give it, they should know. But
draft that have just come forward, just this last draft. And I'm explaining that people should impact their counties and make sure they contribute to their counties so that the money will go down there. Because right now, like my old LGA, the boys are crying because there is some small leadership also. And it affects them on the ground. whatever we do in diaspora affects them that on the ground.
Yeah.
Because my urge, the people depend on the diaspora for their livelihood. They don't. That is why you don't hear about ransom. You don't hear about people abducted left and right to ask for ransom, because they depend 100% on the LG. So whatever happens out here affects them. But now, my issue with what you're saying is that we have to educate. It is true. When you educate, it's true. But I think that educating through examples gives a better understanding or brings more attention than what you say. So if, let me tell you, people in Ambazonia are faced with two things mostly. Most people you talk to are in the IG of Sako, and others are in Agov. Now, people leave from IG of Sako and become Agov, and others that are not so happy with what happens with Sako think that, well, we prefer to remain with the better evil than going to the other evil. So you see,
isn't that a sad situation? Isn't that a sad?
Institutions are very favorable.
Isn't that a sad situation though?
His original IG, they should be able to impact Ground Zero positively and make us see things they have done that will make people know that if they are not happy with Sako, they will automatically go there. Those are the things I have not yet seen. But I know that Seseko himself as a person is an institution himself and is full of a lot of wisdom. But I'm still thinking that the people he has outside still have a lot to do for me to even appreciate them. Because I am an action-oriented man. So I want to see their actions.
I would agree with you.
On the ground, that will be able to attract people from the other sides instead of criticizing the people, because criticizing the people do not make us become attractive.
I agree with you.
Eric Tato criticized the Agov for more than a year, and it didn't change the people. And people who have made up their minds to be there remain there. Now he is taking another year again on Sako. And so people of Sako come to his video and they pass because they know where he's coming to talk about Sako. They'll pass, or they come just to laugh or for fun. What is it? What he's doing? Well, some people are taking their statistics. It may affect them in one way or the other. But it comes to a point when you bring up evil once in a while, one time, two times, and you move on to other issues than singing that song.
Let me move to the Sako, Agov C, and the others are not really they make it all for our struggle, because there are a lot of Amber boys that have within this, because these boys are very serious about freeing their country. You know what I'm saying? And I think that they have waited. They gave a year and 2 years, thinking that their family members abroad are going to help them. The family members really wanted to help them and contributed money and gave, and it was siphoned. It was stolen abroad. So most of them are now beginning to forget about the diaspora, and they're working on themselves. I'm talking. I know a group called Ambazonia Military Force. I've been listening to what they have been saying. They have the idea of how armies actually fight and defend their territory and actually win the revolution. Do you know any more about them?
I was right there in the initial stages where we're working with Foncha and this other man that is still there now. The name just went off. And Della is also there and so on. And I speak with a lot of them, like Honorable and other members of the Ambazonia Military Council. I have some good relationship with them, and I think they're doing great.
So that seems to be the way for the future for me. And I know there are other groups and other initiatives that are taking place. They are very, very, very encouraging. And I think that those are the people who maybe they need to organize better and then compete for the money that these thieves abroad are stealing.
Those are wishful thinking. I still think that the Ambazonia Military Front Council, they are doing great. They are doing their best at their point. But not every force on ground zero is answerable to them. There are many that do not.
No, I gave them just an example. No, I'm not saying. Let me.
To these LGAs that are still under this Ambazonia military front. Number 4 is that there is no way we can automatically dissolve county forces or LGA forces to go and align there. There are many forces that would not. And other movements are also coming up on ground zero. My only wish is that we are able to come with, at the end, with a command structure, because I understand that military is supposed to have a command structure, a level from down to up. But those are some of the things we don't yet have. I am hoping that 2021 comes up with something. But unfortunately, the way we are organized, it's also very discouraging for international organizations to sponsor, because there is nobody on ground zero that has the absolute power to determine what happens on ground zero. Not the IG of SACO, not the IG of SESECO, not the AGC or ADF, not the AMF, and nobody has the absolute majority. Everybody is just doing something at its own angle. There are, take for example, in Mezam alone, you come to Mancon, there are 3 camps in Mancon. 2 are owned by someone in Germany that is controlling and financing, and the other one is ADF. It has nothing to do with IG. But there is, just there in Mezam, there is Alabukam, and there are others. There are those that are also answerable to the IG of SACO, and so on. So they are doing their own in their own various angles. But now there is no cohesion. That there's no one person that is powerful that can control and also determine even that if I call a ceasefire, all others will respect it. So if you are the one that have to give us maybe 15 billion for us to finance this war to the end, why will you give it when you know that I don't have control? SACO will not receive it because it doesn't have total control. Akwanga will not receive because it doesn't have total control. AGC will not receive it because they don't have total control. The only way is how, if they finally collaborate and maybe appoint a defense commander for these forces. And that is, if we come together to collaborate, these forces will begin to work like one, and we will become favorable in the eyes of any person that will want to finance us.
So where do you see us? How do you see us? I know what you said sounded like that's the future, which is where I was going to ask you a question. You sounded like you already said, you know, the whole thing is a mess. So and I've already talked about some of these independent groups. You also added some. I can tell you something though. I tend to more believe in somebody who actually finances a camp down there because he actually gives them money. You know what I'm saying? But the bulk of the money is scammed, and it remains in the United States. It remains in Europe. It remains. So tell me, where do you see us in the next 5 years?
First, let me say that if you are still looking at a point wherein our money is going to individuals or going to groups and we are fighting it, then you are still talking about a case where we should go for the next 5 years. We should go for the next 6 years fighting. And do you think we can withstand this war for that long?
No.
We cannot.
So
more contributions we make, either through which of the IGs, PIG or KIG, whether it's ADF and so on, are chicken change. Whether it is through private contractors, they are chicken change. They cannot win this war. They cannot win this war. This is very serious. Fighting SACO and so on, everybody, we cannot win this war. These small contributions we are making only keep the resistance. They only make us to build capacity, or what they call CV, that we can now say, these boys have fought this war for 3 years, 4 years with them guns and with small contributions. But the real war should come only if we begin to make the enabling environment, make our war attractive. Look, people with the type of resource base that we have should not even suffer from sponsorship. We don't even need to go to them. The people have to come if we were organized. Now, you know the quantities of crude oil we have. You know the quantity of resource base we have in Ambazonia. And the enemy, La Republic, is mortgaging these materials in order to use that money to kill you and me, kill my brothers and sisters in Ambazonia, burn our homes and do this evil, and we are here in diaspora fighting. The only way we stop the killing, the only way we stop the burning, the only way we stop losing is for us to collaborate and make the Ambazonian cause attractive, because no sponsor would be able to give money to AGC or to SACO or anybody, because you don't have absolute control. And if you see SACO is struggling to bring all forces to align under them, under the LGS, it is because he wants that dominance. If you see Ayaba is talking about the dominant force and that they are the people's making himself to be like the only person that is prevalent on the ground, is because he wants to become attractive to those international bodies that can finance. But you know what? Those people know what happens down there more than you and I.
Okay, let me
someone that can rise up on ground zero to become the general of the defense forces of the whole Ambazonia, as we were talking about Ambazonia Military Fund, AMF. If they can take over the revolution on the ground and have good command structure, I tell you that it will not be up to 6 months. We will have tanks, we will have RPGs, we will have snipers, we will have materials that will be able to stand a war. You know what is happening? They are not yet fighting a war.
All right, my brother, I have a in just 1 minute, please, because we're running out of time. So tell me, you still haven't told me where we'll be in the next 5 years.
In the next 5 years, we will be in Ambazonia.
And how are we going to do that?
Well, there is, apart from technique and tactic, which I will be able to speak more about that later, my conviction is very clear. I have studied the revolution. I've seen where we're going. I've seen the invisible hand. And I've seen the force of people that are operating on the ground. And I know that within the near future, these leaders you are seeing, the big names you hear today, will be all over. Whatever, look, man, from the day you are born to the day you die, is forever tested. Now, some leaders may think that they are raising 1 million, 2 million US dollars. Some leaders may think that they are having all the guns that are on ground zero. But do you know what the people are saying? It's only a matter of time. The big names you hear today, very soon you will not see them.
All right.
Because you and I have eyes to see. Ambazonians are very intelligent. When they want to vomit you, you will not believe.
Okay.
So by the end of this year, this 2020 will be a trying moment. We will think that we have lost it all, but there will be a force. Look at, if I want to give you examples of forces operational, the Sonara was not done by any of them. The plane and many other actions that occur on the ground. And there are also actions that happen in the enemy's camp, right there in Yaoundé, that are sponsored by individuals here, that I will not go more than this, but I know. So within a short time, you will see many of them losing power. And in 2021, behold, mark this, I'm talking on camera, that change, unexpected, will come. When that change comes and that leadership becomes whole, and we receive that leadership that we need, then everything becomes clear. Now, let me come to the power of God also. People want to take glory for them having Ambazonia. but you will see people being disgraced and removed. People will be used like what they call a sieve, where you sieve, in Pidgin we say shifter. Those little grains will go and the good ones will remain. But what will happen is that those who thought it was all by them will now have themselves disgraced. They'll have themselves disgraced so that people will know that there is a power from God and not from man. And that is why we struggle and God delivers. And so 2021 will be a favorable year for us. And if you ask me, we are going to take this revolution. By 2020, we should be in Boya. 2022, we should be in Boya. I am not talking about Ambazonia in 5 years to come. No, I'm talking Ambazonia in the near future. And mind you, this time is not just a coincidence. It was a calculation in the agenda of God. Look at what is happening in La Republique. In the few months to come, there will be constitutional shakeup. And for the records, that man, old man in Etudi, is no more. But they're trying to play the manipulation. Now they're struggling with succession. But that succession they are struggling to do is what will bring them doom. The forces you see them concentrated in Ambazonia in the next few months will be moving. A lot will be moving in order to try to guarantee their own safety in La Republique. A lot of these ministers you see bringing trouble against us will begin to run up and down. They will not have safety any place, and there will be real turmoil. And I want to use this opportunity to encourage Ambazonians in Yaoundé and Douala at all times have food, a lot of food. Have a bag of rice, Maggi, and salt in your house. Have water, because on one night it may not be possible for you to go and buy. It is coming, and by that time we are going to take advantage, and that is how it push it forward. Number 3, whatever happens there, and whenever it settles, when the dust settles, it is bringing negotiations. And let me not forget that Seseko and the rest also, whatever change it comes there also comes with their release. And when they are released, they are not automatically coming abroad. They become leaders on the ground. It is easy to coordinate that struggle on the ground. They will coordinate it on the ground, and nobody will arrest them, because the boys on the ground will give them that protection. The population will give them that protection. And that is how it takes that automatic direction. So fighting one another here will not help us. There will be things that will just happen, and you see it going. They may suffer confidence for some time, but when the people stay for 2-3 months and they see that no, these people are genuine and they are really coordinating, then you will know that they will begin to receive that attention they need. Remember, I still have that strong conviction that their arrest and detention is for a purpose, to train them and give them that resistance to stand for this struggle. Number 2, their arrest and detention and suffering is a very good test. And whatever, people will be tested right to the level of death. But when you stand to the end, and whatever you become, it is as a result of the tests, and because you withstood, they could withstand that test and temptations that occurred along their way in that dungeons. And when they come out, the same person, the same people who went there, or with a different mentality, or they become more radicalized than they went in there. That is the leader that God is building in those people that are there. Remember, even Joseph was sent into prison to be prepared. Remember, Moses was sent into the burning bush to train, to leave the palace, go and be in the bush, work and become a servant in order to receive that humility and receive that mandate to come and lead his people to the promised land. And that is what I see these people passing through, preparing them for the task ahead. Not those who sit in the confines of their room and their comfort like me. It is not us. Right. The real leaders will finally come down there. And that is when hope will come alive.
I really want to thank you for joining us. here's what I think. I think you said a lot of the correct things. You said a lot of the correct things. You added certain things there that I would not add, but you did. I think you're right on the money. This struggle is not. Ambazonia did not go on this struggle thinking that we'll outshoot or outman La Republique. La Republique is being funded by the French. They have diplomatic connections. They're funded by the Chinese. So our struggle is not a struggle to beat La Republique militarily. All we really needed to do is defend ourselves as we have defended ourselves and continue to defend ourselves and make the place ungovernable. And we can make that place ungovernable for 30, 40, 50 years. But it's not going to take that long. The time when those kinds of wars used to go that long are done. I think we needed to speak up. La Republique needed to do what they've done. They are the responsible parties there. They're committing war crimes. They have already been caught. I think they are in a bind right now. And I think you are really correct that with time, the forces that need to come together to get them out of our land will get them out of our land. And yes, these middlemen in the West who are swindling and living off the blood of the Ambazonian people are not going to, in fact, some of them will never pass in the territory. Some of them are already declaring that they are American citizens and taking the money to do what you earlier described, that they don't want to go and actually earn a living anymore. So they are saving that money now. But good luck to them. Ambazonia is going to be free. Look, you are a very wise man, and I like your courage. I like your I like your energy. I like your love for Ambazonia, and it's made you change many times. I also believe that a lot of Ambazonians are just like you. They will pursue a certain path and see that it's not working, and they will switch. I think the middlemen are coming up with new schemes every day. Like you rightly say, they couldn't run the scheme of my trip to Boya anymore, so they had to come with county by county because they know people have love for their counties. They're going to milk that. I think after this, when the money doesn't go down there like I expected not to go down there, people will be wiser, and that is when they will fall. I think that our people. I'll tell you another good thing, my brother. Another good thing is that the money our people have is inexhaustible. And so the swindlers can swindle my trip to Boya, and they can swindle this county by county war drafting. That's it. Because you know why it's infinite? It's because the money comes from us working every day. Until we stop working, we'll make money. And we will never stop working, and we will never stop loving our people. And so those who are standing on the way right now are some of those people that you say they will never see Ambazonia. So I really thank you for joining me. I think I would like us to do this more often. Like I said, this is my first Zoom show. It looks really good. You look really good. You sound really good. And I think that if we do more of this, I think we can continue to educate our people. What do you think?
These educative programs are very important, and there are people watching that you will never believe. For example, when I made a live show, I didn't know that I was impacting somebody. I didn't know someone was watching that will even quote whatever I say. So whatever we are talking here today will also touch somebody anymore. And just to say that there are those that have struck or that will strike us and strike the deep-rooted relationships and friendships that we have had in Ambazonia. There are those that will go and try every means to cause us divide and change our fate. There are those that will want to make us lose the union that we have had together like Ambazonians. There are those who will struggle to make us fight one another and lose our track. But there is one thing we must know. The cruelty of that La République du Cameroon and its supporters, France, China, Russia, are things we should not tolerate. The conspiracy against the people of Ambazonia are things we should not tolerate, are things that should make us not to give up. The villages that have been burned, the people that have been killed, the massacres that have occurred in the Ambazonia territory are things we should not tolerate, and we should find reasons to forgive one another and make a bond amongst ourselves that will become stronger to withstand that enemy that have mortgaged our own goods, our own natural resources to kill us. That cruelty, that evil from that La République du Cameroon will not end today. And so the only way we can do to make us more attractive and give hope to our people is to once again unite, is to once again collaborate. I want to take inspiration from what happened in the 1990s and 92s when John Frundi came up with that slogan, "Power to the people." You could see the population that came out to stand because they were yearning for change. They were yearning for change in our life. So that change, that yearning, that love for change in that territory had not changed to date. And that is why when Siseko Ayoktabe called for boycott or called for street protest, our people came with peace plans in their numbers. And when they were shot at and killed in their numbers, they didn't give up. They came out again on the day we declared our restoration of our independence. That is to show you the determination of our people. They are resolute and they want change. But they are discouraged because of the politics we are playing and the divide and rule that we are practicing. The fact that we have been with that regime in Yaoundé for too long and made us to become like kings and rulers as that same man we are trying to lead. The fact that we cannot unite to stand against them is the same way they decided or refused to listen to us when we cried and asked for justice. And the only way we should make a difference between them and us is to come and collaborate. Be it Akwanga, be it Ayaba, be it Sako, be it Seseko. They have all made their own mistakes, and there are humans. It is but normal that we are tested and sometimes we fail. But what happens is that it's not the number of times we fall, but how soon we rise up and we keep on moving. So we have made the mistakes. All of us have made mistakes, and Moses himself killed before becoming a leader to liberate his people. David killed, but he was made a very good leader because when he killed and took the wife of his own fighter. So leaders do not mean that they are now saints or void of mistakes. They have made their mistakes, some have betrayed. It is time for us to know that all of us have weaknesses. I have my own weaknesses. Ayaba has his own weaknesses, and all other leaders. But in their weaknesses, others have strengths in places that we do not have strengths. So if they come together to collaborate, then they can strengthen and they can complement each other. Where we are weak, then we become strong because we complement each other. And this is the only way that we can give hope to the people on ground zero. And when we give them hope, we will give hope also for diaspora. And that is how we can be able to galvanize the resources together and push the struggle ahead. There is still hope in the horizon. There is still hope that even the southern zone that is as weak as it is can rejuvenate. It can rejuvenate if we come together and we say, Akwanga, you are from the southern zone. How do we do to resurrect the soccer death? We can say, okay, Dr. Ayaba, you want to come into Fako. How do we do to collaborate and give you that urge and give you this place and give us this territory? We can make those agreements. It is possible to make agreements and sign documents.
All right, Pa. We're running out of.
Do that, and that is how hope will come to Amazonian people.
All right,
and that is the only way we shorten this period And we will not be talking about 5 years, as you asked me. We will be talking about 1 year and 2 years.
All right, Pa. Thank you.
Matter of tolerance.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The last thing I want to say is that county by county is a terrible idea for a war. So let's rethink through and God help those who help themselves. Thank you, Pa Sikod.